Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm your instructor today. Again, my name is Elaine. I would like to welcome you all to our English Maritime course. For today, it's still about the stress and urgency communication phases in maritime industry. So this phase is still part of a standard procedure in aviation and maritime operation for handling emergencies. So the communication itself is a single prioritized transmission, typically broken down into distinct parts. So rather than a sequence of phases in a larger multi-stage process. The alerting service that responds to these calls operates through three establishments or established emergency phases. So it can be uncertainty, alert, and distress. So I have here the standard TMAS message content, or what we call the STAR. So the STAR format is an acronym for a situation, task, actions, and result. So while primarily the method for structuring responses in a job interviews to describe experiences. So it can provide a clear framework for communication that can be adapted for general message content just to ensure the clarity and completeness. So first, I have here the components of the STAR format. We have the situation. So this is the set on context background of the message. So this provides interviewer with a clear understanding of the circumstances. So this one, it describes the specific background or context in which an event or challenge occurred. So this is a set of the scenes and provides the necessarily details for understanding the rest of the message. So the task is explaining your goal or other challenge that needed to be addressed within that situation. So again, the task, this one, it explain your responsibility or the objective that needed to be accomplished within the situations. So this clarifies the goals or the requirements. Next that we have is the action. So the action describes the specific action you took to achieve your goal or overcome the challenge. So it focus should be on your individual contribution. So the detail the specific steps you took to address the situations or complete the task. So this is typically the most detailed part, focusing on your personal contributions and how you applied your skills. And then lastly is the result. So conclude with the outcome or the result of your actions. So this highlights the positive impact of your actions and demonstrate the value you brought to the situations. So you need to summarize the outcome or the results of your actions. So this includes what happened, the impact of your efforts, the lesson learned, and then quantifiable results for often emphasized. So this is structure ensure that the message is organized, engaging, and provides the concrete evidence of actions and outcomes. So as a result, it will making it easy for the recipient to follow and understand the information. So in the medical communication, the primary difference between the very high frequency and the high frequency is their effective range and the signal propagation. So as I said on our discussion, VHF is used for a reliable, shorter range line of sight communication. So for example, within the hospital or the city, while the HF is used for a long distance strategic communications across vast or remote areas. So VHF communication in a medical settings. So usually the VHF operates in the 30 to 300 megahertz range and is the standard for the most local medical communications. So here the range is limited to the line of sight, typically within the few miles, though this can extend in an open, flat areas or with the use of the repeaters. So the signals are less effective by atmospheric noise or local electrical interference than the HF or the high frequency. So leading to a clearer, more reliable communication in a defined area. So they can penetrate buildings and dense obstacle between the UHF, making them more suitable for indoors use within the facility. uses in the medical or use the cases. Emergency medical services, or what we call the EMS, communication between the ambulance and local hospitals are real-time patient information transmission. So here in hospital operations, so this is the internal staff communication, like the nurses, doctor, and facilities management. So here in the marine and aviation, so this is the standard distress and operational communication channels. So it's more like in the channel 16s or the VHF. So here in the HF communication in the medical settings. So the range or the capable are global communication using the skywave. So the signals refract off the ionosphere and bounce back to Earth over a long distance. So the range and reliability are high. It depends on the atmospheric and the solar condition. So, so this one, it vary by the time of the day and the seasons. So the signals can be also subject to more static and interference. So here, in some remote areas, so the linking remote medical teams in the field with a central operational base hundreds or thousands of kilometers away from or when the conventional structure is unavailable. So here, in the disaster relief, providing the communication networks in areas where the local infrastructure has been destroyed. There's also some strategic planning. So the interagency communication over the vast distances during the large scale emergencies. So I have here some summary or the tables for the summary of differences between the VHF and the HF or the high frequency. So again, the frequency range, the VHF is 30 to 300 megahertz, while the high frequency is 3 to 30 megahertz. So the VHF is the line of sight or ground wave, while the HF is the sky wave. So here, the VHF is the short for medium to range, while the HF is long range. Regarding in the signal quality, so the VHF is more clearer, less static, and consistent coverage area. While the HF, it can be affected by the atmospheric condition or the noise. In terms of the require or equipment, so the VHF is more smaller, more compact antennas, while the HF has a larger antennas that required. So I have here some key point to remember. So again, the VHF, it usually the channel 16 to over 470. So this is for the immediate short range contact with the coastal station or nearby ships or the A1 and A2. The HF, it is be the 4, 6, 8, 12, 16 megahertz or B for long-range communication with the Coastal Guard or MRCC in A3 and A4 areas. And then the SATCOM or the Inmarsat C. So this is primarily means for the telemedical assistance services or the TMAS in A3 and A4. So as you can see here, we have here's the charts or the visuals for the how the communication, as you can see here, by the HF is the skywave, the VHF is for these space waves, and then using the satellite, which is direct waves. So again, here in some critical medical and emergency communication, an interoperable system that utilize both VHF or for local operations and HF or long range support provides the most comprehensive and resilient network. So here I have here the ship to ship for assistance. So this one, it refers to a process that transferring the cargo between the two vessels while at the sea or at anchor. So it often avoid the port charges. So which requires the specialized equipment and trained personnel. So the assistance on this context includes the coordination, specialized equipment, um, like the fenders or the hose, cargo master supervisions, and adherence to the safety and regulations protocol, like an approved ship-to-ship operation plan. So the operation is overseen by a person in overall advisory control, such as the mooring master. So you can see here, I have here now the key aspects to ship or STS transfer. So the purpose of this is to transfer or allow the cargo. So typically the liquid bulk like oil or chemical to be moved between the ships without docking at a port or saving time and money. So this operation involves by approaching or mooring and connections of two vessels and transfer of cargo and the disconnections and unmooring. So it can occur while the boat ships are underway or while one is at anchor. So STS is operates required a high degree cooperations. So again, the STS operation requires a high degree of coordinations and detailed STS plan. So which is mandated by the international regulations. So it's like the MARPOL for the oil tankers over the 150 GD. So this plan must include some emergency procedures and contingency plans. Here I have now the personnel or the designated person in overall advisory control or the POAC. So it is required to manage the operations. So this could be one of the masters on board or an appointed STS superintendent or mooring master. So both vessel must be equipped with the proper transfers equipment, so such as the hoses, fenders, and emergency response gear like fire extinguishers and spill control equipment. So the companies, they can provide a range of services to ensure the safe and compliant STS operations. So including the coordinating the entire process, arranging for the necessary equipment, and personnel and overseeing the cargo transfer. So the things to remember here that requesting assistance from vessel with a doctor or medical facilities, the MCP, like how do you request it properly? So I require the medical assistance for the ship that so using the VHF channel 6 or 8 for on-scene communication. So coordinating in a medical rendezvous requires a clear communication. So meticulous planning and the effective use of the technology just to ensure that all parties are aligned. So I have here some key steps for a effective coordination. First thing is to define the objective and gather the informations. So clarify the purpose. So understand the specific goals of the meeting to determine the required time and resources. And then you need to gather all the necessary medical history, current medication list, allergies, and recent test result in advance of the appointment. And then you have to know all the contact information. So you have to keep an updated list of all involved healthcare providers, their contact details, and the patient's insurance informations. And then the next step is you need to plan and schedule the rendezvous. Select an accessible location and time. So you have to choose a location that is easily identifiable and accessible for all parties. So you need to consider or considering the potential travel time and the obstacles. So they need to offer some flexible scheduling options, including the online self-scheduling to accommodate the patient's preferences. Next is you need to prioritize the appointment. So, triage appointment based on the urgency. So, some issues may be resolved via phone call or email, while time critical condition requires a in-person or same-day attentions. So, next is you need to build the buffer time. So, incorporate a buffer of about 10 minutes between the appointments to handle the unforeseen delays or complete post-visit tasks. So this one, it will help to maintain the smooth workflow. So the third steps that we have is to have a ensure clear communication. So we're going to have this by using a simple and clear languages. So you need to avoid some medical jargons when communicating with the patients and their caregivers just to ensure the mutual understanding. Next is to send the automated reminders. Utilize a text messages and emails to send some appointment confirmations and some reminders. Next is to confirm the details. So always confirm the date, time, and location, and any necessarily pre-appointment instructions with all involved parties and immediate after scheduling. So the last step, oh, the fourth step is you need to prepare for the meeting. So complete paperwork in advance. So if possible, have patients fill out a new patient's form or questionnaires beforehand to save time during the appointment. Then formulate some questions and concerns. So encourage the patients and their caregivers to write down their questions and concerns so that the important issues are not forgotten during the consultations. And then you need to plan for the emergencies. So have a plan for a various emergency scenarios, including the backup staff, clear communication channels, and available emergency slots in the schedule. And then the last step is the follow up and evaluated. So take notes, documents, discussions, and instructions during the appointment so they can be referred to later. And then evaluate the outcomes. So the systematically assess patient outcomes and seek feedback from both patients and staff to identify the areas for improvement in the scheduling and coordinations process. And then lastly is the schedule follow-ups immediately. So book the next follow-up appointment at the conclusion of the current visit just to ensure the continuity of cares and save time later. So here now is the phrases for ship-to-ship transfers. So this one, it includes the describing operation itself, like the approaching vessel, mooring, cargo transfer, as well as the terms for the safety and preparations, such as the risk assessment, checklist complete, and emergency equipments. So other important phrases covers the equipment used, like the fenders and the communication protocols, and then the standard marine communication phrases, just to ensure the clarity and according. So here, for the operations and maneuvers. So, so approach maneuver. So this is the process of the ship moving alongside another to begin the transfer. Next is berthing. So the word berthing is the act of bringing the two ships close enough to dock together. Then we have mooring. So this is the securing the two vessels to each other with lines and hoses. And then cargo transfer, meaning the actual movement of the cargo from one ship to the other. So we also have host connecting or disconnecting. So this is the simply connecting and then removing the hoses used for the transfer. Unmooring. So this is the process of the safe safely separating the two ships after the transfer is complete. We also have what we call the dynamic position or positioning. So, using the advanced computer-controlled system to maintain a precise position without anchoring. And then we have what we call the lightering. So this is an alternative term for STS transfers operations, particularly for a larger tanker. So for safety and preparations, we have what we call the risk assessment. So this is evaluating the potential danger of the operations before it begins. We also have what we call the contingency plan. So it is a plan for what to do in case of an emergency or equipment failure. And then the STS checklist. So this is the series of mandatory checks that must be completed and assigned off by the boat vessels. So again, for safety, we have what we call the risk assessment, the contingency plan, and the STS checklist. And then another one is what we call the emergency equipment. So this one, it is ensuring that the fire, oil, or oil spill, and other safety equipment is ready for use. And then we have also what we call the abort criteria. So meaning that the condition that would cause the operation to be stopped, such as the severe weather or the equipment failure. And then lastly is the safety meeting. So this is the pre-operation meeting just to ensure everyone on board understands the plan and their roles. So next that we have is what we call for the communication and equipment. So this one, we have what we call the standard marine. We have what we call the standard marine communication phrases or the SMCP. So this is the set of the international standardized phrases to avoid the misunderstanding in communication between ships and with the shore. And then the maneuvering ship. So this is the ship that is actively making the adjustment during the operations. And then we also have what we call the constant heading ship. So this is the ship that is holding its position while the other vessel is maneuvering alongside. Then we have the word fenders. So this is the large protective cushions used to prevent the two vessels from damaging each other during the operations. And then the hoses. So this is the flexible pipes used to transfer the liquid cargo between the two ships. So now, so when communicating in maritime industry, we have here the confirming the communications. So this is the formal procedure based on a closed loop communication principle. So which is very critical for the safety and enshrined the International Maritime Organization or the IMO and the standard marine communication phrases. So this process ensures that the message is not only received but also correctly understood and acknowledged. So here, the closed loop process or the standard process, they have this involving the following step. So first is the sender transmit a message. So the message is clear, concise, and often uses the standard phrases. So message markers like the instruction, advice, or warning. This can be used to indicate the nature of the message. So again, instructions, advice, or warning. So next is receiver actively listening and interprets. So the receiver focuses on the message to avoid any distractions. And then the receiver must acknowledge the receipt and crucially repeat the critical parts of the message. Instruction back to the sender in full rather than just saying okay or understood. And lastly, the original sender listens to the feedbacks and confirms that the repeat message is correct. So the feedback is if the feedback is incorrect, the sender must repeat the original message and if necessarily simplify it further until it is understood correctly. So, standard phrases for confirmation. So, the IMO SMCP, they provides the specific, fully worked phrases to facilitate this closed loop communication and avoid ambiguity, especially among the multilingual crews. So when an instruction or advice is given, the receiver should be response. So it can be affirmative by saying I will or I can, then followed by the instruction in full. And then in the negative way, I will not. So there's a word not. I will not or I cannot, followed by the instruction in full. Next is for a yes or no question. So, fully worded answers are required. So, for example, the questions are you currently in full ahead? So, the correct answer is yes, my engine is full ahead. Not just by saying yes. So if the message is not properly heard, the receiver says, say again or say again, please. So, and then if the part of the message needs a safeguarding and clarification, the receiver says repeat, followed by the correct responding parts of the message. And then lastly is you need to acknowledge the readiness and receive a message by saying, I am ready to receive your message. So this rigorous feedback system is a core safety measure ensuring that all crew members and vessels involved in an operation share the same understanding of instructions and situations. So, thereby minimizing the risk of the accident. And then handling the non-English responses. So in the maritime industry, it primarily involves mandatory use of a maritime English and the IMO standard marine communication phrases. So the system or these systems are designed to bridge the language gaps and ensure the safety in a diverse international environment. So, as I said earlier, mandatory English. So, the English is the international recognized official language of the sea for navigation, safety, and the external communications, or what we call the ship to ship and the ship to shore. We also have here the SOLAS and the STCW, which is the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, and the STCW Convention that requires the seafarers to be proficient in English and in both written and oral forms. So, to perform their duties effectively. So, there are some exceptions. So, the SOLAS allow for a common language other than English to be used for onboard communication and bridge-to-bridge communications. So this one, it provided all individuals directly involved speaks that language. However, however, English must be default for the external and the safety communications. So how are they handling these non-English responses? So when a non-English response is received or a language barrier is present, I have here some following procedures and best practice that being used. You need to revert to DSMCP. See, so all the seafarers must be trained and expected to use the IMO standard marine communication phrases or the SMCP. So these are the limited set of standardized phrases for a common navigational and emergency situations which results the ambiguity even for a non-native speakers. So next is you need to standard phrases like say again or please repeat yourself or please or spell the name of your vessel and use the manage understanding and gather the specific information to or if you are requesting for a clarification. So next is you need to use a plain language. So meaning that within the multicultural seafarer, using the plain, simple English and avoiding the jargons helps to ensure that all team members understand the message. And then you have to have a visual communication. So the diagrams, charts, and internationally recognized visual signals can be used to support the verbal communication and clarify the complex instruction and situations. So next is you have or you must sometimes need the interpreter or bilingual personnel. So, in the onboard personnel who are bilingual may be enlisted to interpreter. Although the primary method remains the use of the maritime English and the SMCP. And then we also have some training and drills. So the regular training and simulation exercises that incorporate the communication challenges helps prepare the crew or the seafarers to handle the non English responses in a high stress situations. And then lastly, patience and respect. So cultivating a culture of patience and understanding where individuals are encouraged to ask for clarifications without fear of being judged is essential to prevent the miscommunication for escalating into accidents. So overall, aim is to ensure that the language barrier do not compromise the safety of the life and property at the sea or the protection of the marine environment. So again, we have here the key points again to remember. So again, the SOLAS requirements. So this is to ensure so the shore station must be capable of the English communications. And then contingency, meaning have essential distress, urgency, phrases written out in a common language and operating area. And then lastly is rerouting. So meaning that the Coast Guard will often reroute the call to a more capable MRCC. So that will be all for today discussions. And thank you for your listening. Again, I would like here is your instructor Elaine for your English Maritime course.